Am I annoying yet?
No. Did you hear my response?
I was just thinking, we're 3 minutes into this, so, it's like, if I'm not annoying yet, well, then I'm slipping.
So, I would think the difference between the two would be similar to the difference between justice and a court. One is the realization of the other.
Hello?
There's actually not as much difference between a concept and a conception as there is between justice and a court. Because when we're talking about a court of law, we're not even talking about justice, we're talking about jurisprudence.
Okay.
Justice is a much more nebulous concept. Jurisprudence is the application of ethics.
Okay.
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay, awesome. Sorry about that.
So this discussion is about fickleness versus discipline. It's actually relevant to a few discussions ago in regards to self-care and essentially just remembering to take care of ourselves so we can take care of others. I want to sort of glaze over this as opposed to read the whole thing, simply because there's a lot of information. We only have 30 minutes, and because we've kind of also covered this. Excuse me. But I want to point out that this has some specifics, such as this the second paragraph. I've done some cursory research on this, and here's what I've found what's often believed to be necessary for being able to keep up discipline in life. Goals that are followed through are well planned. There's no point aiming on going to the gym 4 times a week when your schedule is completely full. A goal should be attainable. Many people welcome a challenge, but it should be one where success can actually be achieved. And you actually need to want what you plan for. This may sound like a no-brainer, but setting aims that don't really improve anything in your life is a recipe for failure. I kind of wanted to start the discussion with that because lately in the temple we've had a lot of pushing, a lot of people trying to start different things. We have the Hurricane Clan starting up. We have people pushing for a lot of improvements and a lot of change within the temple. And I think, especially as we're kind of just past mid-year, we're having college start up again. We have a lot of people sort of starting their fall sessions in both college and their life, and just sort of it's the latter half of the year. People tend to do people like to start on specific kinds of dates, such as I'll start that on Monday, or I'll start that on January 1st. The start of fall is one of those dates where people want to try and do stuff, because we're heading into the holiday seasons. I was kind of wondering what all your thoughts were on creating valid plans and goals in regards to your progress within the temple or within Judaism as a whole, and what's helped the best.
Okay, I'm going to butt in first before anyone says anything. I really liked this sermon, mainly just because there's been a lot of, I've been dealing with, with discipline and motivation and stuff like that, especially for lessons of the IP. And I very recently went on a camping trip where I spent 3 or 4 days in a very in a big place, a place where there's a lot of nature, and I used that time to meditate a lot on what I wanted to do with Jediism and everything, and where I wanted to be, and what I wanted the temple, what I wanted to be a part of in the temple. And so what I found for me was, I found reflecting on my long-term goals more often gave me more motivation to do things, like to do the tedious work. So in the first point where he says goals that are followed through are well planned, for me, that meant that I kept in perspective what I was working for. You know, like what I was trying to achieve, what I was working towards.
Okay. When I was in the military, they told us when we were setting our personal goals, they had us do this quarterly. They said you need to be able to see the goal, you need to be able to envision it happening, and you need to be able to achieve it within a reasonable amount of time. Because the further out you push it, the harder it's going to be to complete. So I can definitely understand the planning aspect. Anyone else?
Well, beyond like long-term goals for me, like I have a short-term goal for myself, and I have to go through and I have to plan it out, because if I don't plan it out, it's going to be very obvious. I'm trying to grow out a beard. It's a very simple goal for me. I've always wanted one, and now I'm starting. But I have to plan it out, because I could just go caveman and just let it go, but it won't look good. So you have to, from what I read up, is you got to grow it. You got to style it as you grow it. So first I started with the chin, then I did the sides. Now I'm doing this. You have to. So I've been planning it out, and it's an achievable goal. All I have to do is just not shave the areas of that goal. I know, very basic.
That's good. It really is.
It's a very basic goal for me, but it's something that I know I can achieve. It's something I can visualize. I know I can see in my head what I want in the end, and I know that there's going to be uncomfortable phases, but I know how to get to that point.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
And just as a bit of advice, don't visualize like getting the Obi-Wan. I've always wanted to get the Obi-Wan, but this part doesn't connect on me. So I can't exactly plan that in, because that's never going to happen.
One thing you never planned for and you really can't do much about is whenever it just starts going white. Unless if I grew out my beard, I would look like Father Christmas. So it's or maybe a bit like Obi-Wan, I don't know, but not the right Obi-Wan, the old one.
The older one.
Yeah.
See, I just liked how it looked, but I've been trying, and after 3 years of growing it, I finally have like a single hair right here. So
that's a question that it comes up there. It's like, how is it that we try to grow our hair? And that's like saying I breathe.
Naturally.
Yeah, I mean, it's like breathing. Even if you're not thinking about it, if you're not trying different styles of breathing, well, then is it something happens, or is it just something really we do?
I kind of think of it. It's kind of interesting. Just as you said, it's something natural. We can't really control it. But here we are. I just said I want to grow out mine in a very specific fashion that my face doesn't allow. Can I really truly improve upon that area if I'm not
wouldn't the improvement be if we just stopped making something an ipseatic thing? I mean, the whole idea of wanting to have a particular image is an identity. Now, it's an identity feature. It's somehow we want to see ourselves. The self-image then goes directly back to the I, the ego I. Now, this is not bad. I mean, it's not something, oh, we shouldn't have an ego. Well, that's stupid. You know, it just is. I mean, we have a self-image. If we don't have a self. This is why I bang on about we cannot be objective about things. We should try to be. When we are focused on our self-image, we're objectifying the self. And that's not a good place to start out.
What is it? I once had a pastor tell me the root of unhappiness is when we compare ourselves to others. And I think that kind of blends into it, is that we see something else that we like and we're like, that's cool, and we try to fit in with that. Like everyone wants to have like the 6-pack abs. Well, that's fine for some people, and this would be just focusing on like body specifics, but if you want to get into it, you know, everyone wants to be a certain type of intellectual. People want to be, we see someone with a PhD or something like that, we want to we idealize them, try to be more like them without acknowledging what's true to ourselves. Would you say?
Les garçons, diplomas make fine placemats once you get them laminated. I've got something in the drawer here. But, you know, that's not going to tell you any more about who you are. You know, pursue something, certainly, that you're interested in. But, you know, the diploma in and of itself is... Learning is fine. Getting a diploma in order to be able to prove you know something is stupid.
I agree.
Getting a diploma, due to our social organization, well then certainly diplomas are fine things to have. They grant us opportunities. But then how many people that when we see we're trying to emulate them because they've got a PhD. And a PhD is really not such a hard thing to get. All you've got to do is write a book. And then defend that what you've said in that book is reasonable and it adds something to the corpus of knowledge. There are very few people who are actually turned down for their PhD. Well, yes, they require a lot of work. But then often that a lot of work turns a person into a real jackass because then they think that they're an expert in just about everything because they've written a book on some sort of minutiae, you know, which I had a friend who did his thesis on, I don't know, his field was history. His PhD was on something like records of grain harvest between 1758 and 1761. Who the fuck cares? You know, well, how does that help us deal with North Korea? I mean, really, what? So, you know, having a diploma is fine, but don't turn it in. It's just like it is on the same level as growing a beard. If you turn that into a self-image thing, you know, to try to maintain domination relationships with other people, it's going to fade away. It's going to be completely worthless.
So what would your advice be to help sort of break the habit we already have? Because I think that's something we're taught into a very young age. You know, if you want to look like this, well, we can work with you on that. What would your advice be to help break away and kind of focus more on ourselves? Sort of do, I can't remember the philosopher. He mentions the veil of ignorance to make decisions as if we are unaware.
Rawls.
There we go. And my community college education's paying off.
There we go. That's just it. The way to break out of that habit is to stop trying to break the habit. Recognize it as a habit. Pose yourself the right question, saying, "Is this really going to get me where I want to go?" Planning is great, but then you've got it's not the most important part. It's not what we're planning for, but why we're planning it.
Okay.
How come? What is the underlying necessity that this will meet? Then figure out how it's done, and then of course that yields the whatever happens. But that's
okay. I think we've kind of shifted the discussion from
not at all. Not at all. Because this is the one I like this month, because fickleness and discipline, we've got these things held as opposites of extremes, and they're not. It's coincidentia oppositorum. Very often we find that our most stern discipline is totally fickle.
Okay.
How many people start diets? I'm going to stick with this. How many people start exercise programs? I'm going to stick with this. How many people set these ridiculous goals, about 1 or 2 a week? I don't know, and then whatever, they vacillate, so the stronger one tries to discipline oneself, the more fickle one turns out being, because it never turns out to be the right thing. It never turns out to be the thing that's going to, make myself think exactly what I want, and make others see me exactly as I want them to, or...
I think sometimes it's also a matter of priority. A lot of people say, I want to work out, and I want to lose a lot of weight, but other stuff tends to pop up, stuff that's more immediate sometimes, and it's disruptive to my goals inherently. Where something else, I might have to work later. I have a homework assignment, which is more important right now.
So how do those two things equate to one another? Losing weight and having stuff pop up.
Time.
But here's the interesting point. I mean, there's two ways. Of course, everyone's situation is different, but it's either you don't have time, or you didn't make time, if that makes sense. There's two very distinct points in that the I didn't have time could be you're working on 3 hours of sleep, you've got 14 assignments due, and now you want to work out. Yeah, maybe not. But in the making time, taking 5 minutes away from TV, taking 5 minutes away from maybe your morning routine, there you've got 10 minutes which you can work out with. I mean, that's just very situational.
Precisely. And of course, taking 5 minutes away from something gives you 5 minutes to give to something else.
Absolutely. There's actually a point I'd like to... Oh, sorry, did you want to say something? No? Okay, there's a point that I'd like to raise and ask you guys. I saw a video about it on YouTube recently, and it evoked a lot of a response from me, and just in the way that I keep on thinking about it is discipline versus motivation. And the way that this person was seeing it, who was talking about it, is he very blatantly said that motivation is absolute bullshit. Discipline is the thing that really drives you through what needs to be done. Discipline is the thing that drives you through that tedious work of the daily grind, whereas motivation makes all of that kind of just feel good. And I'd love to hear your opinions on that.
Motivation definitely kind of takes the edge off of doing the same thing in and out every day. The Marine Corps kind of relied a lot on that to make us happy with standing in line and moving rocks from one region to the next. It's kind of an opiate, so to speak. I definitely agree that discipline is the rigidity and focus in making sure that actually happens.
What does discipline mean? The word.
Direct definition, or do you want like a deeper meaning?
I want a deeper meaning. I want an etymological definition of it. I mean, what do we know about discipline? What does it mean? Do we say someone is disciplined?
Someone who is to me, discipline would be someone who is disciplined or has discipline is someone who is able to maintain and adhere to regulations, internal or external, or set a goal and focus upon it. Boiled down, it's essentially someone who pushes on and does what needs to happen.
I see that as well. You pretty much stole the words out of my mouth, but I also wanted to make the analogy of I don't know if this is going to make sense once I say it out loud, but organs, in a way, organs, they work. They just work day in, day out. They're constantly working. In a way, if an organ had a mind, it would be very disciplined because it is working. I think, drawing upon what you said, that a disciplined person is someone who just does it. The discipline itself outside of a person is just something that will happen because it has to happen.
And part of being well disciplined is being able to resist outside factors.
Yes, well said.
Really? Why?
Meaning anything that would attempt to force you to deviate from the path that you have set. In order to maintain.
You just set yourselves, if you follow that to the letter, you just set yourselves up to be another Adolf Eichmann.
Yes, but that's the thing. When we allow for discipline, we do our motivation for different things. I mean, we've all got free time. So when we do allow ourselves to be, when we let ourselves to be disciplined, or when we get ourselves to be disciplined in the times where we do not have something to do, that's where the motivation kicks in to do the things that we want to do.
Let's simplify this a bit. What is the relationship between discipline and a disciple?
Haha, okay.
I would say that a disciple is one who is following a specific discipline or path. And discipline would be, outside being a catch-all, talking about a discipline is a proscribed path or philosophy. And the disciple is self-imposed.
Good. Okay. To simplify this even more, discipline merely means learning. And it doesn't really have to do with, very strict adherence to anything. I'm probably one of the more disciplined people, but I am a lazy schmuck. It means whenever I have to be somewhere at, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning, well then I get up at 5 p.m. And it's not because, it's just simply because I like to have the time to not have to hurry. My whole life is to the point where I do not have to hurry for anything. If I have a train at 10 a.m., I'm at the train station by 9. There is no running for the train. There's nothing more easy than to stop to go somewhere when it is, So, in essence, being disciplined is not, being strict and being really working very hard on things. It's doing things in such a manner that things can just come as they must, without putting a lot of effort into it.
Okay. I can definitely see that. My learning about discipline came from the Marine Corps, so it's their philosophy is a little bit more. Actually, no, it would be. So the Marine Corps has a very guiding philosophy in congratulations, you've signed away your life to us, and you. If we say to be here at 4 a.m, guess what? You have nothing else in the world to do. You belong to the Marine Corps, so you have all the time in the world to be there at 4 a.m. And it sort of takes away, in some cases it does take away other options, like congratulations, you live on base. But it definitely does make for that arrangement to make doing your duty easier. Huh.
I remember
Nice.
when I was in the force. I remember when I was in the forces as well. It was people said I was very disciplined because I was at the gym twice a day and I was doing a run before breakfast and everything. The thing is, I was sort of forced to. If I didn't, I'd get in trouble. The second I left, I stopped going to the gym. I stopped doing push-ups. I stopped running. And then it was like, after a couple months, I'm like, wow, I'm really not disciplined in that manner. Like people said that I was. So then I had to start forcing myself to. I had to instill that inside myself again, without someone telling me, hey, by the way, you got to be at the gym at this time and this time.
Now this is where we come to remark the relationship between the mentor and the disciple. It's the learning has to be internalized. This is, if we want to use the Star Wars model, whenever Luke was in the trench, Obi-Wan wasn't there, but then he's flying in there and he's trying to do everything by the book, and then suddenly he hears the voice of his mentor, let go your conscious self. You have to that's just the discipline being internalized.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the mentor. You would hear the sergeant getting you to go to the gym. You would hear, it doesn't matter. That inner voice that we all have, takes on the voice of the mentor, saying, "This is how we pursue our goals. This is how we, make the steps toward the plans we've set." They don't have to be huge steps. They just got to be, we do this now, and we do this next thing then, and we do the next thing after that. Then, it's not. Everyone looks at discipline like it's this huge ponderous thing, and it's not.
And I think that just to sort of piggyback off that a little bit, the sergeant would be saying, you're going to be doing this in 10, 15 minutes. Get prepared, or you haven't done this thing, you need to do it. And you'd be trying to fix whatever caused that to not happen the prior day. Such as if you got up late because you stayed up late and you weren't able to go to the gym before work, your inner sergeant would be telling you, okay, you're going to sleep earlier to make sure that you could still make it to the gym because that's what we're doing now. So.
Well, it's not only that. The inner sergeant has a lot of things to say. if our goal is to lose weight, well, then the inner sergeant's not going to just say, well, you need to go to the gym now, but he's also going to say, having a packet of crisps and a soft drink for lunch is probably not the way to do it.
Yeah.
The inner sergeant's also going to say, don't drive whenever you're just going 1 kilometer. Well, then, just walk it. It takes a few minutes, and those are those 5 minutes that you didn't watch TV a while ago,
It's
Discipline is not a hard thing to have. Discipline is applying what we have learned.
Yeah. I really like that view on that.
Yeah, very well said.
That definitely changes it. We're at about 9:35. I have all this recorded, so if we want to end it now, we can. If we want to continue the discussion a little bit more, that's perfectly fine. But that's based off what everyone else would like.
We don't have to be so disciplined as that we are slaves to the clock. Clocks and calendars make fine servants, but they should never determine what we want to do, especially if we have the occasion to do. Do any of you know what Kant's categorical imperative was?
No.
Kant's categorical imperative was to do what is right because it is right. I think.
Well, that's a huge. That's a paraphrase or a summation of what the whole thing meant. But there were 3 parts to it. The first one was act only according to a law you gave yourself. I don't even remember what the second one was. The third one was probably the most important: is treat everyone as don't ever use anyone as a means to an end, but have
a means
approach someone as an end in and of himself. And what was the
I
second
think
one?
I've heard it on you.
Act only according to the maxim whereby you can at the same time.
Yes, act as though your maxim could be a universal law. In other words, if everyone did as I want to do, well then would the world be a better place or a worse one?
Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, so never merely as a means to the end, but always at the same time as an end. And then the idea of the will of every rational being as a universally legislating will. This is why I only got a B in my ethics class, because I have to Wikipedia that.
The groundwork or fundamentals of morals, 1785.
Sorry, my screen keeps getting dark because we got a storm outside. Yeah, y'all got brightness behind you, and I'm like, you can see my nose and my cheeks and my baldingness.
The reason why I don't have my light on is because there's too much light behind me, and I'd look like an angel. So.
I turned this lamp on because otherwise the light streaming in the window behind me, well then I would just be sitting here as a silhouette.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that.
It's 3:39 here.
So in regards to Kant's categorical imperative, one of my teacher had a tendency to talk more of it in grand sweeping terms, community college, in regards to he'd always drop back to like you see someone drowning, you're going to go save them because it's a reasonable assumption for people. You know, it's a reasonable belief that everyone believes that you should be saving that person's life. There's actually a story in Florida, I believe, of several teens who watched a man drown and did nothing. And we're all stunned that that's not illegal. There was.
It is illegal in France.
It is illegal?
It is illegal in France, yes.
It's going to change very quickly here in the United States. But I want to say it was the state it was in never thought that anyone would even not help. The kids filmed it and they were laughing as they watched someone drown and die. And it was never thought of that it had to be addressed, that it was just something that happens. You see someone in danger, you save them.
You have to. You would think that it would just be common sense, or just part of like I have to.
Yeah, it wouldn't even appeal to sense. It would appeal to our common humanity. You know, sense is meaning, but then, as it were, it's not common sense. Common sense is often, it's the worst sort of meaning making, because common sense is a horrible thing. It's what Heidegger called Das Man, which is basically the they say. Common sense is just the sort of all-around made meaning that everyone ascribes to, that making one's own. You wouldn't even want to say that, jumping in and saving a drowning victim appeals to any sense at all, except for the fact that we share humanity. And, it's just the thing to do to save someone's life.
So, in
We
regards
want to ascribe that to common sense. For those kids, it's becoming common sense to not. I don't want to make this a generational thing, but it's true that, with the increasing population and the more that we're turning to virtual reality to give us some sense of meaning and identity, and to, show us that there is a life beyond the one that we're kind of stuck in, well then, a lot of these games that have, people killing one another, and they're showing them, they're growing up thinking that, life it's just sort of that. People aren't people. People are applications.
When I was growing up, there was my dad likes to take photographs. He's a hobbyist photographer. He has those big cameras. The end of the camera is like yay big. I can fit my head into it. And growing up with him, I learned about something in which, if you have a camera in front of your face, everything beyond the camera isn't real. It's not happening. Because he brought this up because there's a lot of articles about people getting mauled by animals, and being hit by cars, and watching people get hurt because they were filming it with a camera. And apparently there's some sort of disconnect when you view it through that little lens. You're looking through your camera and all that, and it disconnects you from the person on the other side, because now you're recording something. And that little filter of a lens is all it took for you to become an observer, not a participant in a situation. Which, unfortunately, we're increasingly viewing our world through a lens. And how often, to kind of try and tie it back in, how often are we kind of observers in our own lives?
it never got untied. Everything you were just talking about with the camera, that's simulacrum and simulation. 1981, Jean Baudrillard, not only a very good philosopher and sociologist, but he was also an excellent photographer. It talks about the procession of simulacra and how we are we make our reality out of images. And it's been that way with multimedia. So, it started in we could say that it started as soon as they were able to put photographs in newspapers, and has just, with all the media that has developed over the course of the 20th century and the early 21st, well, then what we make reality, the meaning that we make, the reality that we can recognize. I say recognize, it's, not cognizing at all, but just recognizing, thinking of something we've seen before, well then it's exactly that. It's, we're making our reality out of images. There was a reporter who was covering, I think it was the first Iraq thing back in 1991 or whatever it was, and she said that she didn't have any idea the scope of the war until she got back and was watching the recordings of it on CNN. She was there, and it wasn't reality until she got back and was looking at what.
I think we have a bit of a break.
Yeah. Okay.
Just sort of talk about that. It's to sort of flip that comment on its head. Sometimes we get so focused on what's at hand that we do have to wait and have an outside observer tell us what's going on. Officers in the military, so you know this, Arisa, carry pistols for a reason. If you have an M16 and you're in an active firefight, you're focused on where your barrel's pointing. You're not focused on the situation at hand. Whereas the officer has a pistol for self-defense, but he's supposed to be planning and thinking about the situation as a whole. And it's all too easy in what we're doing. And sometimes we're doing very important work. The foot soldier is doing what he has to. It's incredibly important that he do it. But at the end of the day, we still need to be able to step back and with our goals, we get so entrenched within completing them that sometimes we have to step back and make sure we're still going on the path for our goals, making sure that we're still achieving them in the way that we want to achieve them, and realize if there's anything else that we have to do. And sometimes it's just good for a morale standpoint to step back and realize where we've come, to sort of help visualize how much further we have left to go. And it's important to take stock of the situation, I think.
I mean, again, that's why that's what I found so useful about my camping trip, is that it allowed me to kind of realize exactly where I was headed, and what I wanted.
It kind of goes back to what Alexander was saying, was make time.
Yeah.
Even if that time is to take a look.
Yeah, that's that point.
You'll naturally flow into it.
Yeah, of course.
There we go. Sorry about that, lads.
You kind of went. What we discussed in the very short time that you were gone was sort of piggybacking off that and mentioning that sometimes, with that person who was in the conflict and stepping back and seeing it all at once play out on the television or in the newspaper, in the military, you often have your officers carry a pistol, because the guiding philosophy is if you carry a rifle, you're more focused on fighting the enemy, and so you get stuck into the situation. Whereas the officer, he's paid to direct everything. He's not sitting there. He's not supposed to be fighting. He's supposed to be making sure the fight flows in the way it's supposed to. Because once you look down the barrel of a gun, that's all you're focused on. You're fighting the enemy. And I mentioned that sometimes wheeling it all the way back around, with making sure everything flows around, taking that time, and making sure that you can do everything. Sometimes it's very, very important to be able to look back and see the full situation, where you've gone, where you've been. Can you do it a better way? Are you still doing it the same way or the way that you want to complete it? And kind of taking that step back and making sure that you're still doing the right, what you're supposed to be doing, the way you want it. We'll see if Arya sags.
Hey, where did he go?
Yeah, yours froze. His cut.
Mine cut also. I looked down in the internet box. The little light had turned red, which meant that I had no more internet connection.
Well, for me, you froze, which I think you'll find great amusement in the position you were and the facial expression.
Yes, I agree as well.
I don't know about that. I'm not very photogenic anyway, and so as it were, I'm sure that it was quite amusing. It would, it would have made a great cover for a tabloid, but
Well, I mean, I could probably take like a photo snap of it and put it as the YouTube cover for this video.
That sounds good.
So.
I like that
please
idea.
Don't.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do whatever you want to. It's like.
But Ari just kind of disappeared as opposed to held screen. But he also said that he has problems with his internet right now.
Oh yeah, I think he's moved or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, speaking of disappearing, it is almost 12 at night. I must head to sleep. So.
And I have to start getting going with the day. I have to clean the garage, wash the garage, and I have to get ready for school. Yay.
Fun.
I just have to go back and try to straighten out the library because I made a real mess in there a little while ago. And whenever I noticed how big of a mess I made, that's about the time I said I'd bugger it, and I just went to the gym. So, that's one way you can be motivated to go to the gym, is to have something else that you don't want to do more.
Yes, definitely.
When I did, was it like 16 different sections of the IP in a week? The only reason I did that was because I had an 8-page essay due that Sunday. So
it was better to do the IP than to do the essay, right?
Well, I actually have worked this into sort of how I craft things and kind of work. I'm aware that if I have something big due, all the little things seem to just happen.
Yeah.
During my finals week last year, the house got cleaned. I organized all my clothes. I organized my books. I organized the garage. I went into work on the weekend. Stuff just magically happened. But I also plan around knowing that whenever I have something big that I don't want to do, I always get the energy to do everything I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I've used procrastination to help actually make me not procrastinate.
Well, yeah, why not? That is discipline. If it works, it doesn't have to be changed.
The only thing is then when that backfires and the big thing that's looming over ends up, kicking you in the butt. So, yeah.
I got an 82%.
Well, did you get the big thing done?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Where's the
Nothing to
problem?
change.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is it? Had a story from one last quick story. One of the older guys at work, he was in a stress management class because he was going to college to be a physical education teacher, and he was doing really good, but he also had a lot of other finals that he was working on during the time. So during his final exam, he walked up to his teacher and said, "Teacher, if I fail this, if I get a 0 on this test, what will my final grade be?" And she said, "Well, it'd be about a B. You're doing pretty good." And he said, "Okay, this is me managing my stress," and turned in a 0 paper and just walked out. So he would have,
Oh, wow.
and he got a B, but he managed, he got the job done without having to pull his hair out. So.
Wow. Yeah.
That sounds perfectly reasonable to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, if you don't care about your GPA, and as long as you're passing, I mean.
Exactly. No harm, no foul in that case.
Yeah. But I've really enjoyed this conversation with you all. It's
Me too. Yeah.
It's had some aha moments where I'm like, wait, no, I didn't. The military did do that. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this. It's given me a lot to think about.
Especially some of the things that you, Alexander, said. I mean, the biggest one for me was discipline means learning, and discipline is applying what we have learned. Those 2 points. I know I'm definitely going to meditate on them and try to further bring them out into how I can apply them into my everyday.
Same here.
It has been a good conversation, lads. So,
I like to think that the start of it was when we started talking about beards, and that's where I kind of saw it start to really build up steam.
well, it's because I don't have one, because whenever it grows out, it is white, and so,
I don't have one because I can't grow one. All of my hairs are blonde and really thin, so I tend to just forget about it because it just doesn't work for me.
Well, yes, but then little fine white fuzz is kind of cute too. So
Yeah, but then you look yourself in the mirror with the stern, manly eye and go, "Do I want to look cute today?"
I can't really shave to my beard because you really see my round cheeks.
Yeah.
And you all get to see my round cheeks now because that's. My wife says I look like a giant baby. You all kind of get to see that because you see the light reflecting. But on a normal day-to-day basis, the beard kind of detracts from my poofy cheeks.
So it's the beard that keeps you out of the high chair, eating strained peas and carrots and
But my wife says she loves your accent.
I don't have an accent.
She disagrees.
No, you all have accents.
It's all
I'm
about
just
the
teasing you.
right?
But
I sound like everyone else.
we sound like everyone else around you, and we sound like everyone else around us. So when I talk to my mother, I sound like someone from Wisconsin. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation with you.
It's been nice to see you again. We saw one another right before I went back to England, and then I was out for a couple of weeks, and then whenever I got back last week, well, then you couldn't be there. So it's been nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I really enjoy your insights on a lot of this stuff. I'm used to college, so the teachers kind of get used to the idea of, well, here's just your information, and if you don't like it, I'm still grading you wrong on it. So it's really nice to listen to you because you actually have the experience. It's not a sharp-edged knowledge. It's very rounded and well used.
Well, that's how it was whenever I taught university too. I mean, one of my models was, first of all, a history professor that I had, Mademoiselle Bayard, and the other was Gilles Deleuze, who was professor of philosophy at Varennes. And neither of them would stand behind a desk. I mean, they would just kind of like, we would all get in a group and they would come and sit with us and we would discuss. That's how teaching was exemplified to me.
Okay.
It's not having some kind of air of authority saying, well, you have to get this. Here's how I present it. If you don't get it, well then, I'm sorry. It's, I have, something to impart. I'm not even going to call it knowledge because, who knows, whatever I think I might know could be proven wrong the next day. But then I can't say, these are the kind of things that we can think about. And, we'll have a discussion and we'll think about it in a lot of different ways. And honestly, the classical best students, the ones who would just write down anything and spit back at it whatever I said, were never my favorites. The ones that I really got on with were the ones who would say, well, this doesn't make sense. Now, if we think about it in this other way, well then, and we would have some really beautiful conversations. But I don't do that anymore. I got tired of being part of a system.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and I have to start taking care of some business.
Of course.
Again, really great discussion. I love talking with you guys again. And
thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. This is grand.
Yes.
You all have a good weekend. Enjoy it. Have fun.
Bye. You too.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.